Hi there. I spent most of my life running a small exterior painting crew back home, just me and a few guys doing residential work. When you work with your hands for 40 years, you think you've seen every kind of leak and every kind of rot that can eat a house. You think you know what things cost. But there's one cost that's been hitting us lately that I didn't see coming. It isn't the mortgage because we mostly got that paid off. It isn't even the grocery bill, though that's certainly gone up. It's something else. Something that feels like it's quietly chipping away at our Social Security check every single month. Now, we're not rich. I never had a pension or one of those 401k plans you hear people talk about on the news. We have our savings and we have our monthly check from the government. That's it. And for a while I thought we had the budget figured out. I sat at the kitchen table with a legal pad and did the math, but I missed something. I think a lot of us miss it because we spent our whole lives being able to just fix things, or we figured we'd have the energy to shop around forever. But things change when you hit 70. Your knees don't let you up the ladder, and your patience for the fine print starts to wear thin. And that's when the quiet cost starts to show up. It's the cost of being tired. It's the cost of not being able to do it yourself anymore. It's the little things you used to handle without thinking that now require a checkbook. I remember sitting on the porch about 6 months ago, looking at a piece of trim that needed a quick sand and a coat of white. 5 years ago, I wouldn't have even finished my coffee before I had the ladder out. But that day I just sat there. I looked at my knees, I looked at the height, and I realized I was going to have to pay someone else to do it. And I knew right then my budget was in trouble. You wake up one morning and you realize you aren't the guy who fixes the house anymore. You're the guy who owns the house that needs fixing. And that feels weird. Not good weird, just weird. It's a bit of a blow to the ego, honestly. You spend your whole life being the provider, the handy one, the one who knows how to negotiate a deal. Then suddenly the world feels like it's getting a little more expensive and a lot more complicated, and you start to feel like you're falling behind, even though you did everything you were supposed to do. I'm not going to give you a 5-step system or some fancy investment strategy. I wouldn't even know how to do that. I'm just going to tell you what happened to Diane and me, and what we've had to figure out. Because if you're living on a fixed income like we are, you know that there's no margin for error. One bad month can set you back for a year. I want to talk about how we started spotting these leaks before they turned into floods. I looked it up once and they call it lifestyle creep, but for us it's more like capability fade. I want to go through 5 things I've noticed. Things I really wish someone had told me back when I was deciding to retire over eggs at the diner with Diane. The first thing I noticed was the maintenance gap. Like I said, I was a contractor. I know what a gallon of paint costs. I know how long it takes to clear a gutter. But what I didn't account for was the price of my own aging. Last summer, our AC unit started making this high-pitched whine. Usually I'd pull the panel off, check the capacitor, and maybe swap it out for 40 bucks. But it was 95 degrees out. My back was acting up. Diane looked at me and said, "Gary, don't you dare go out there." So I called a guy. He came out, spent 20 minutes, and charged me $300. $300. That's a lot of groceries. That's a few months of gas for the truck. I sat there writing the check and my hand was actually shaking a little. Not because of the money itself, but because of what it represented. It represented the fact that I can't work my way out of expenses anymore. When you're retired, you can't just take an extra Saturday shift to cover a broken appliance. Once the money is gone, it's gone. Which, I don't know if that's good or bad, honestly. It's just the reality. We have to accept that our time of saving money through sweat equity is coming to an end. And that's a hard pill to swallow for a guy who has always prided himself on being useful and capable. Then there's the cost of convenience. This is one that Diane and I argue about in a friendly way. She's healthier than me, like I always say. She walks every morning. But even she gets tired of the hunt for the best prices. We used to drive to 3 different stores to get the best prices on meat or produce. Now, sometimes we just go to the closest place because it's easier on the legs. Or we buy the pre-cut vegetables because chopping them for 20 minutes makes our wrists ache. I looked at our bank statement last month and saw we spent almost $60 more on groceries than we did the year before. And we weren't even buying more food. We were just buying easier food. It's a quiet tax on your energy. You don't see it happening until you add it up at the end of the month. I told Diane, maybe we should go back to the old way. And she just looked at me and said, Gary, I've been cooking for 45 years. If I want to pay $2 more for a bag of salad I don't have to wash, I'm going to do it. Hard to argue with that. She's right, of course. At some point, your comfort is worth the extra few dollars. But when those dollars are part of a fixed Social Security check, the comfort starts to feel like a luxury we didn't plan for. The third point is what I call the frustration tax. This one mostly happens online. Everything is a subscription now. I liked it better when you bought something once and you owned it. Now you look at your credit card and there's $10 for this, $15 for that. I found out we were paying for 2 different movie services we don't even watch. I asked Todd, my youngest, how to cancel them. He just sighed like I was asking him to explain rocket science. He eventually fixed it, but it made me realize how much money we just let go because we don't want to deal with the tech side of things. If it's too hard to cancel or too hard to find a cheaper rate on the internet, we just keep paying the old rate. I've started making myself sit down once a month now to look at those numbers. It's boring. I hate doing it. But when you're on a fixed income, those $10 leaks are the ones that sink the boat. I don't fully understand why everything has to be a monthly bill now, but that's just the way of the world. It feels like the world is designed to drain small amounts of money from you constantly, hoping you're too tired or too confused to stop it. Then there's the family stuff. Look, I love my grandkids. Kevin's kids, Braden, who's about 14, and Kaylee, she's 11. They're good kids. But I didn't realize how expensive it is to be a good grandpa in 2026. Everything they do costs money. Sports, school fundraisers, birthdays. You want to be the guy who says yes, but sometimes I have to check the balance first. I remember Kaylee wanted this specific pair of shoes for her birthday. I won't say the price because it's embarrassing, but it was more than I used to spend on a whole set of tires. I wanted to tell her she was crazy, but I saw her face and I bought them. Diane gave me that look. You know the one. The we can't afford to be the heroes look. It's hard to balance being generous with being smart. I don't know why shoes cost that much now, but I do know it's a cost I didn't put in my legal pad notes 4 years ago. We want to be the grandparents who provide memories, but sometimes those memories come at the cost of our own monthly stability. Lastly, there's the what if cost. This is the one that keeps me up sometimes. It's the money you hold on to because you're scared of Medicare or the house needing a new roof all at once. We live a little more frugally than we probably have to, just because of that fear. It's an emotional cost. You don't spend the money on a nice dinner out because you're thinking about the dental work you might need next year. It's a weird way to live. You have the time now, but you feel like you have to guard the resources like a hawk. I've had to learn to relax a little bit. Not a lot. I'm still a guy who grew up in the Midwest and knows the value of a dollar, but a little. We went out for steak last week, just because. It felt like a rebellion. I'm not going to tell you it all worked out perfectly. Some months are tighter than others. Some days I sit here and wonder if I should have kept the painting business going another 2 years. But mostly, it's okay. More okay than I expected, honestly. You just have to be willing to look at the numbers and realize that the world isn't the same as it was when we started working. And that's about it. You know, the other day I was talking to my neighbor, Jim. Jim worked for the post office for 30 years. He's got a better pension than I do, but he's saying the same things. He told me, "Gary, it's not what we spend, it's what we can't save by doing it ourselves anymore." And he's right. Back in the day, if a pipe under the sink leaked, I'd be under there with a wrench in 2 minutes. Now just the thought of lying on the floor and trying to get back up makes my hip throb. So we call the plumber. The plumber charges $100 just to show up. That's what I call the mobility tax. It's something nobody tells you about in those retirement seminars. They talk about stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. But nobody tells you, look, at 72, you're going to spend $5,000 a year just on things you used to do for free. It is a massive mental adjustment. Sometimes I feel a bit useless seeing another man painting my own house. But Diane reminded me that I've put in my fair share of brush strokes. She says it's someone else's turn to earn a living, and our turn to just watch. Then there is the tech issue again. Everything needs an app. You want to order food? App. You want to see the doctor? App. And if the phone breaks, there goes another $800 that wasn't in the budget. I feel like we are constantly running to keep up with a world that wasn't built for people who like things simple. But we have to adapt. Todd tries to teach me, but he doesn't have the patience. He does things so fast I can't even see where he clicked. "See, Dad, it's easy," he says. And I say, "It's easy for you. You were born with a screen in your hand." But I don't want you to think I'm just complaining. There is a lot of good. Being able to sit here and talk to you, sharing these things, is one of them. Retirement gives us the luxury of time, and time is the one thing money can't really buy, even if it spends it. I'm learning to value the small wins, like finding a coupon that actually works, or fixing a computer problem without calling Todd. What I really want you to understand is that a retirement budget is a living document. It changes as we change. What worked at 65 doesn't work at 72, and it probably won't work at 80. The trick is not being afraid to look at the paper. Don't hide the bills in a drawer. Face them. Talk to your partner. Diane and I have our monthly summit, and even if it ends in a debate about the price of cheese, it's what keeps us afloat. And about the grandkids, well, the money spent on them is the only money that doesn't hurt as much. Seeing Kaylee smile in those ridiculous shoes, I guess that's what we work so hard for, isn't it? To give our own what we didn't have, or just to see them happy. We just have to be careful not to forget that we also need to eat next month. It's a delicate balance, like walking a narrow plank. I want to know how you all are handling this. Does anyone else feel this capability tax? Do you feel like you're paying for your physical freedom? Leave it in the comments. I read everything, even if it takes me a while to reply because, well, technology sometimes wins. Look, retirement isn't about being rich. It's about being smart enough to stay free. And staying free means knowing where every dollar goes, especially the quiet ones. It means admitting when you can't do it yourself and planning for that expense before it surprises you. It means being honest about the fact that life gets a little more expensive as our bodies get a little more tired. But that's okay. It's just a new chapter with new rules. I remember my father-in-law used to say that the most expensive thing you can own is a house you can't maintain. I never understood that until now. Now I see that maintenance isn't just about the wood and the nails, it's about the man holding the hammer. When that man changes, the price of the house goes up. That is the one cost quietly destroying retirement budgets. It's the silent shift from "I can do that" to "I need to hire that out." If you can anticipate that shift, you'll be ahead of the game. If you can set aside a little extra each month specifically for the "I'm too tired to fix it" fund, you'll sleep a lot better. Diane and I started doing that 2 years ago. We call it the Gary's Knees Fund. It sounds like a joke, but it's the most important part of our savings. It's what allows us to keep the house looking nice without me ending up in the hospital. Anyway, I've rambled on long enough. Diane is calling me for our morning walk. She says if I don't go, my knees will get even more expensive next year. And as always, she's probably right. She has a way of seeing the long-term costs that I sometimes miss when I'm staring at a leaky pipe or a peeling wall. Take care of yourselves. Don't let the quiet costs catch you off guard. Keep your legal pads out, keep your eyes open, and don't be afraid to admit that things are different now. There's no shame in paying for a little help when you've spent 40 years being the one who helped everyone else. It's a hard lesson for a guy like me, but it's one that makes retirement a whole lot more manageable. I'll see you in the next one. We'll probably talk about something else that costs more than it should, or maybe I'll just tell you about the time I tried to use a smart thermostat and ended up wearing a parka in the living room for 3 days. There's always a story, isn't there? That's the best part of being 72. You've got a lot of stories and hopefully someone willing to listen to them. Stay safe, keep your budgets tight, and don't let the world grind you down. We're all in this together, trying to figure out how to make these fixed incomes stretch across a world that seems to be expanding in price every single day. But as long as we're talking and sharing what we know, I think we're going to be just fine. Actually, let me add one more thing. I was looking at the prices of simple tools at the hardware store last week. Even a basic wrench has doubled in price. It's not just the labor we have to pay for now, it's the tools we used to buy for a few dollars. It feels like every time I turn around, there's another little thing taking a bite out of our savings. But you know what? We adapt. We find ways. Maybe we share tools with the neighbors like Jim. Maybe we trade a little painting advice for some help with the heavy lifting. There are ways to fight back against the quiet costs that don't involve a bank account. That's the real secret to a happy retirement, I think. It's not just the money in the bank, it's the people around you. It's having a wife like Diane who keeps you moving, and a son like Todd who, mostly, keeps your computer working. It's the community, because when the capability tax gets too high to pay alone, that's when you realize you don't have to pay it alone. All right, now I'm really going. Diane is standing by the door with her sneakers on, and she's giving me that look. You know the one. The, if you don't get off that camera right now look. Take care, everyone. Talk soon. Wait, one more thought before I go. I realized I haven't talked about the cost of health. Not the big doctor bills, but the little ones. The vitamins, the better quality shoes for walking, the heating pad for the back. It all adds up. I used to buy the cheapest shoes at the warehouse store. Now, I have to buy the ones with the special insoles. That's another $30 every few months. It's constant, but it's necessary. It's an investment in being able to keep going. I think that's how you have to look at it. It's not just money going out. It's an investment in your own quality of life. Okay, Diane is actually tapping her foot now. I'm gone. Bye for real this time. Actually, I just remembered something else. The property taxes. Oh boy. That's a quiet cost that isn't so quiet when the bill arrives. We think because the mortgage is paid, we're safe. But the city always wants its cut. And as the neighborhood gets nicer, our taxes go up. It's like being penalized for staying in your own home for 40 years. We've had to adjust our monthly withholding from our own checks just to make sure we aren't hit with a giant bill in November. It's another thing to put on that legal pad. If you haven't checked your property tax projections lately, do yourself a favor and do it today. Don't let it be the surprise that ruins your Christmas. Now I'm really truly heading out. I can hear the birds outside and it's a beautiful day. I'm going to try and enjoy it without thinking about the price of anything for at least an hour. That's a good goal, right? 1 hour of price-free living. I'll let you know how it goes. All right, take care. Watch those budgets. See you later. I'm sitting here thinking about one more thing. Insurance. Not just health, but car and home. Every year the premium goes up, even if you haven't had a claim in a decade. I called the agent last month and asked why. He gave me a long story about reinsurance markets and inflationary pressures. I told him I didn't care about the markets, I cared about my wallet. We ended up shopping around and saved a few $100s, but it took 3 days of phone calls. That's the time tax. If you have the time, you can save the money. If you don't, you pay the price. It's another trade-off we have to make now. Okay, I'm shutting the camera off now. Diane is at the window. Goodbye, everyone. Be smart with your money. One final thing, I promise. Entertainment. We used to go to the movies. Now it's $20 for a ticket and 10 for a popcorn. We stay home and watch those subscripts instead. It's cheaper, but sometimes I miss the big screen. We've started doing movie night with the neighbors. Everyone brings a snack and we take turns hosting. It's fun, it's social, and it costs almost nothing. That's how you beat the quiet costs. You get creative. All right, I'm done. For real. See ya. Actually, I was just thinking about the cost of electricity. We replaced all our bulbs with those LED ones. It cost a bit up front, but the monthly bill went down 10 bucks. Over a year, that's a few steak dinners. Little changes, big results. That's the mantra. Okay, I'm leaving. Talk to you later. One more thing about the garden. No, I'll save that for next time. Bye.